Well, Jay, thanks for coming on. I was really looking forward to this conversation after our last one. But for those who don't know you, I would love if you just take 30 seconds to introduce yourself, the business that you run. That'd be super helpful.
Okay. I'm Jay Tipton. We're out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Started this in '98, back when things were easy and safe. In July, we got hit with the Kaseya attack. That
Wow.
just totally blindsided us because we had no idea.
Yeah. And you run an MSP out of
Fort Wayne, sorry.
yeah. Yeah. And how big an organization? I mean, you've got obviously you've been doing it for a long time, but um, roughly how many customers are you helping on that?
On contract, I think it's around 50. Then the other folks that like to do time and material.
Yeah. So not a three client MSP, right?
No.
You're pretty solid size. Um, all right, so let's start where it started for you, right? So, do you remember what it was like? When did it start? Like, where were you? How'd you notice that things were going sideways?
I was actually out at a client's using my laptop, and that's important here for a reason in a little bit, that working on his phones to get them up and running. I noticed I was getting ready to leave, that Outlook and Excel closed down, which anymore with Microsoft, it's not too unusual for those to crash and just close. So I just closed my laptop up and took off. As I got to the car and I called into the office, I was told that we've got a client that can't get off the internet anymore. And you may have to stop by. So I'm like, okay. And then she says, hold on, I've got another call. And she had like 3 or 4 calls right in a row of people not being able to do anything and having strange icons show up on their screens.
Wow.
So I changed what I was going to do and came back here to the office, looked at her machine, saw it was ransomware, and I just went into the server or into our NOC and just shut everything down.
Okay.
Pulled power plugs. Didn't really care at that point. Uh, so once we realized what was going on, I went to go grab my DR, which was located on 5 different machines in 3 different locations. All of them got encrypted at the same time, including my laptop, which I don't even have on.
Wow. So it must have been like a time bomb preset, right? Like once it hit a.
I, I'm not quite sure all those details on the back end. I just know that it was an injection into our SQL, and the SQL took that as uh, an update that had to be pushed out to everybody, and it did what it should. It pushed it out.
Wow. So, you got those couple of calls like or your assistant did, in that how wide had it gone?
It hit everybody.
Wow. So every one of your 50 plus clients is suddenly offline.
About, uh, I think we ended up cleaning about 500 workstations and all, and probably around 50, 60, no, about 80 servers.
Wow. Okay, so but again, take me to that day. So you run into the network operation center, the knock, and you pull plugs, right? And then
Yep.
is your is your literally like your phone system down because that's also run out of the server, like it's VoIP, right? Are you even able to like
It's
get
no,
phone
it's
calls?
void, but it was a separate box.
Okay, so you're still
It's
you're still getting calls, right?
oh yeah, we're
Okay,
still getting calls. Our internet's down, which uh, we worked on getting DHCP and DNS running internally,
okay.
and then we started accessing the damage of what was going on.
And what I mean, what time of day is this? Is this morning? Is this
It was
night? Is it
11:45
okay?
in the morning.
Okay. And then what do you do? Do you like run home or do you run to the local Starbucks to hop online? What do you do? What play me through that day, right?
Well, we have phones that we could hotspot, but we got the internet and wireless up internally,
Okay.
and then we were just trying to assess the damage and see what was going on.
Okay.
because I
And
thought at first that we were the only ones.
okay,
And
so how do you start to get the realization that it's, this isn't just you?
scanning the web, uh, I've got like 5 or 6 groups that I'm in that I get alerts from.
Okay.
CompTIA's ISO sent out an alert.
Okay.
Uh, unfortunately, I read too much, so I couldn't tell you exactly which one I got it from.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we found more stuff on Reddit, and my ex business partner came down, and he spent almost a month with us,
Yeah.
and he found where they had the instruction code, where somebody had decompiled the instruction code and was able to tell us step by step what they did.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, so these and got Jay, one I want to just thank you for telling us, for being willing to talk about this. And I know, I can only imagine how traumatic this is, and even to talk about it, right? Because I think it must put you back in that place. Um, and I want to thank you for that, because I know it's not easy, and how incredibly painful and scary this must have been for you. Um, a business that you've been building for 20 years, and suddenly your entire business essentially is at risk, right?
Yeah, it's gone. It's down.
Yeah. And all of those customers, right? Like, these are, these
Yep,
are, these are
my friends.
customers. Yeah. Your friends, right? I mean, these are not, you're like many MSPs, like, these are customers that you've had for years, if not decades in many cases.
Yep, most of them have been. The longest ones have been 23 years.
Wow. What do you, I mean, how do you get word out to them? How are you talking with them? What happens that day, to try and, like, start to stem the bleeding and start to,
Well, the
um,
good thing was it was a Friday afternoon before a holiday, so
right.
most of our clients closed at noon, and they didn't even know what was going on yet.
Wow. Okay.
And some of them we had cell phone numbers for, some we didn't.
Wow.
So we had we had those 3 days that was fairly quiet that we could at least work and come up with a game plan.
Okay.
Uh, on Sunday, I basically told people that I can't make a decision. You guys are going to run with it. If it's under $500, I don't want to hear about it. Just do it. And so I
Yeah.
turned over that. Uh, they freaked out a bit when I gave my business partner my guns because I didn't feel like I could control myself if somebody pissed me off, that I'd probably empty the clip in them,
Yeah. Oh my God.
because I was that unstable with everything happening.
Yeah. Wow.
But I've
Um,
got a hell of a team. Without them, it wouldn't have gotten done.
yeah. And I think, I know it's really hard, but I think so often when we talk about these things, we talk about the technical, and we talk about the, this and that, right? But I think, um,
No one talks
it,
about the emotional side,
yeah, and
how it
just,
affects your team, how it affects you, how it affects your clients.
yeah,
I've never seen anything on that when reading about these.
yeah,
And
and
that's more of what I want to get out there is you're going to feel alone. You're going to feel beat.
yeah, but and it sounds. I mean, when we were talking about this, that's what you felt like, but it isn't what. Sorry, and it isn't what happened, right? That not only your business partner, but kind of people came out
Oh,
of the
yeah.
woodwork, right?
I had ex-employees coming in. I had clients coming in doing their machines, then helping us do other machines.
Yeah,
I had friends I didn't even know about, sending me hardware. I had servers and workstations just showing up at the door for loaners to get people up.
yeah, and they just sort of had started to hear through the community that you were dealing with this, and they just
Yeah,
started. Yeah,
yeah. I talked to MJ because I know him very well. Uh, I talked to Mike. I always Semmel.
just to.
He told me to get a hold of an attorney and all that. And I talked to a couple other people, and then I had people just calling. people I haven't talked to in 5 or 10 years. What do you need? Well, I don't know. I had no clue.
Wow. And
You know,
just, sort of saying, when you do know, call me back.
yeah. Well, we actually had some of my friends actually use their employees that were out of Fort Wayne area and sent them to sites that we had down south in Indiana, out in California, uh, Ohio, Michigan, and they sent their employees out to help us clean. We gave them my ex business partner wrote some code that went in and ripped everything out of the Active Direct of the Hive, the Active Directory basically,
Yeah.
and ripped out all their code that they put in there, and then went through and deleted all the encrypted files.
Wow. And so
He's way
started
smarter than I am.
it. um, but yeah, that had to be, I mean, just, um, in the midst of that, just what is such a scary moment, was it just to see that, to see people? I mean, were you shocked? Were you sort of like flabbergasted? How do you?
Yeah, I was. I didn't expect it.
Yeah.
I had, like I said, I had people 5, 10 years ago that came out of the woodwork where you helped me, you know, with this, and I'm sitting there going, I just answered a couple questions.
Yeah. I mean, your story, like, I think I'm newer to the MSP community, but um, it's just such an incredible group of people, right? And I
Yep.
think stories like this one are just where people see it, right? Because they don't, these are people that obviously occasionally like to get a beer together, at conferences. I've
A
certainly seen
beer,
that
a beer.
at.
You haven't been to the right events yet.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a few more than one. Right?
Okay, that's better.
um,
We
but
ran a bar out of Grey Goose, if that tells you anything. At one of the hotels we stayed at in Phoenix.
I may have been part of something like that at a couple events, right? But
And then one of the guys sent his personal assistant out to go get more. He gave it to the bar. I said, "There, you got vodka now. Let's start pouring." And I was just like, "Wow."
yeah, and and yeah, and so this didn't, that obviously starts that weekend, but this didn't. I mean, this didn't take. This wasn't a couple of days. How, the how long did this go on for? Right? Like,
It
what was
took us
this?
about. We're just finishing up. Well, I was in the middle of starting a project of migrating a client from Citrix 6 to Citrix 7.
Okay.
And since both Citrix servers got hit, and those were the only servers that got hit for that client, I'm like, okay, the database is okay, all that. So let's just get the Citrix servers back up, get them upgraded. And, famous last words, because I had to upgrade the OS. And it took a lot longer than I had planned because there was no planning before I started.
Yeah.
I was just thrown into the fire on that.
Yeah.
And so that took about 2 weeks to do.
Okay.
And then the rest of my time in between that, we were having download problems from one of our vendors that we couldn't get more than 40 megs. And when
Wow.
you're talking terabytes of data trying to be downloaded,
Wow.
it just sucked.
So it went on for weeks, if not,
It took us about a month to get everybody cleaned up and back up.
yeah.
That took
Eh,
us about another 15 days after that to get our systems all up.
Yeah. And did you sleep in that month?
The first weekend, no. I
Yeah.
was here almost 20 hours a day.
Yeah. And then do you just sort of hit a point where you're like, I have to go. I can't, I'm like not seeing straight anymore.
I collapsed in my office.
Yeah. Like literally sleeping on the floor.
No, I literally collapsed on the couch. I mean, literally fell over
Wow.
because I was
Yeah.
that beat.
Yeah.
My One of my employees just looked at me and said, "Yep, you're done."
And I sort of sense some like gallows humor, right? Like, what was it like? I mean, obviously there's sort of like an incredible a range of emotions, but you know, is there a point where you just sort of like, um,
Say
you know,
fuck it.
yeah,
I said it, so there's your f bomb for the event.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's not
but yeah, there was a point. At first you feel helpless, At first, I felt like it was my fault because I was actually tweaking the security on that server, the Kaseya server,
Yeah.
early in the week. So I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit, what did I forget?" As I'm driving back across town, I'm going through everything that I changed,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "That shouldn't have done it. That shouldn't have done it. That shouldn't have done it." And it's like, I was blaming myself at first. I still did for about a week.
Yeah. And then as it starts to come out that you realize that this is at a level, right? Because
Oh, it's above my pay grade.
yeah, I mean, so for those who aren't as familiar, and if it's helpful, I can talk about a little bit of the fact pattern of this because would you prefer, would it be better that I do, or
Probably.
that you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm under NDA.
Yeah. So, this was an event. The Kaseya event was suspected to be done by, they believe, the Russian intelligence service, right? And Kaseya um, had connections into some of the largest defense contractors, as well as government systems in the Defense Department, intelligence community, et cetera. And so they believe effectively that this was a quite a high level nation state level attack, but it's the amount of collateral damage and damage across the ecosystem spread way beyond those just those systems, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
There's about the last total I heard was like almost 1.1 million machines encrypted.
Wow. Yeah. And was there ever a ransom note on the machines that you saw? Like
Yeah.
what was okay. And did you ever, did you think about or kick off any of the process of actually engaging with the threat actor there?
No, because I would have just cussed them out.
Yeah. Well, how much were they? Do you remember how much they were asking for, or they did not specify?
It ranged between, if they found a SQL database on the machine, it was more expensive.
Gotcha. And at any of your clients had insurance? Like were you insured? Were they insured?
I have some insurance, but I found I didn't have everything.
Yep.
Some clients did. Some of their insurance folks were decent and worked with us. And there was a couple that just wanted to fight with us.
Yep.
And it's
Yep.
like, look, we're on the same team. We've got to get them up.
Yeah.
I really don't give a shit what you're trying to do. I need to get them up and running.
Yeah. And how about what was it like? I mean, these are customers that you've known for decades, right? What was
Yep.
that like with them? I mean, it sounds like some pretty incredible experiences with the community and trying to help, but how did the how did the customers, your customers take it?
We only lost one client through the whole thing.
Wow.
And that was one that was on their way out anyways.
Wow.
They took their machines somewhere else. We had the decryption key by then. They had him wipe them and reload the machines and didn't back up the data. So he lost all of his QuickBooks for many, many years.
Wow. Yeah. Um, and yeah, and for those who aren't as familiar, can you talk about how you got the decryptor? Is that
It was
okay, or
from
do you want?
Kaseya.
Okay.
That's about all I will go into, but I did get the tool from Kaseya.
Okay. Yeah. So I think for those, I mean, this is public knowledge, so I can share it, right? So
Yeah, as long
after
as I
this,
can't go into great
yeah, yeah.
details.
So the story that hit the press was that essentially the FBI managed to get a copy of the decryptor, and then or may have even potentially had that decryptor earlier in the
Yep,
process,
they did.
and then at some point they realized the amount of damage that was going on, and so then they, as part of the recovery, released that decryptor to Kaseya, and then to all a number of the parties that were affected. Did you have much um, interaction with law enforcement yourself? Like, did they get involved at all?
At first, we did. We had like 5 or 6 phone calls that weekend.
Okay.
And then after that, it sort of dropped off. And we didn't, I don't think we've heard from them for about 2 weeks.
Gotcha. And were you calling kind of local, or were you calling FBI
It was
and
FBI.
yeah? So they were sort of taking the facts of the case, but um,
Yeah. There were so many of them. There was, you know,
yeah, yeah, and that we've had a number of conversations with folks from the FBI, and I think their heart is in the right place. I think they're trying to do to be helpful. They certainly aren't prosecuting folks for talking about what they've got. I think that some people worry about that, but honestly, I think also they are pretty limited in their resources, and in a lot of cases don't reach the level that they feel that they can devote their limited resources to. I think would be
Oh yeah,
the
they're stretched too thin.
yeah. Yeah, so you're just on your own. Did you end up, it sounds like you did a lot of this stuff kind of with help from friends. Did you get, I mean, did any of the sort of specialized incident response firms get involved? Were they at all,
We
did you have
had
any?
one, but I won't go into it. I just some of the things they wanted to do and all that, I was just not impressed with.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
gotcha.
you've got a dead horse, you've got 400 other dead horses. You want to autopsy every single one of them to the ninth degree to do what? You're not going to find anything new.
Yeah, we know what killed this thing,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
that's some of the problems I had with some of my clients' insurance companies. Well, we need this on letterhead from Kaseya. No, they've already released everything that happened. Just deal with it.
yeah,
Go into Google and do a search. You'll find what you're looking for.
yeah. Creating that fact pattern. Yeah. Um, and at some point, we won't necessarily put this in the recording, but I'd love to have an online conversation about which carriers were much better for you than others, right? Because I want to know
Yeah,
that, right? Yeah, we should have that conversation, because I want to make sure that as we put folks in with different carriers that they're acting in a way that they should, right? Because that's what it's here for.
yeah.
Um,
The biggest problem I had was some of the response teams. It was, I saw the documentation that they sent them, and they said, "Don't send these documents to your IT folks. Don't give them any information that we're telling you." It's like we're on the same team, guys.
yeah, yeah, that's wild, right? Um, what so with those customers, you sort of walk me through kind of how so you have the weekend, you're sort of collapsed on the couch, right? By the beginning of that week, what was the plan that you came up with? How did you start to implement? It sounds like your old business partner came up with this tool to start pulling stuff out, but that wasn't that's not a and then eventually you got the decryptor, but that wasn't for a couple of weeks, right?
Correct.
So yeah,
Most of our clients, everything's on their server.
okay.
So those folks, we either we went out and picked up all the machines, or they brought them over to us.
Okay, so literally picking up laptops, picking up servers, and what did you do? Um, did you because you were telling me you sort of set up an assembly line?
Correct. We've had enough KVMs to do 24 machines at one time.
What's a KVM for those who don't know?
Uh, uh, Keyboard, mouse, video switch.
Okay.
So we had 8 machines all plugged into this box with one monitor, keyboard, mouse,
Oh, cool.
and they just, you start at 1, start the script up, go to 2, start the script up, go to 3, start the script up. And if
Gotcha.
ones that we were just wiping and reloading, we had them on USB sticks to reload,
Cool.
or we used what was on the hard drive for the restore
Gotcha.
partition.
But even still, I mean, that's not how long does that take per machine? Is that, like a 10-minute process? Is that a couple hour process?
Uh, the program that my partner came up with, it was about depending on how many files, it was about 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay. So,
The restores, as fast as the machine will go.
yeah. So,
But we had enough desk space that if one took longer, it didn't really slow down the process.
yeah, but I mean, anything times 500, that's it's
A fun
not
number,
no, it's not a fun number, right? And so were you basically operating and your team 24/7, like doing this? Is that like,
real close.
yeah, like just looking like a war room, right? And
Myself and my top engineer, we both had over 500 hours in for the month.
oh my God, that's bananas, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
wow. And what are you doing? I mean, are there just pizza boxes and Red Bull cans and everything else, just sort of like in every direction, right?
Real close. I mean, we had clients bringing food in.
Yeah. Wow.
We came in on Wednesday morning. What would that be? The 5th, 6th, on July 7th, and somebody brought donuts in. The next morning, somebody brought muffins in.
Wow.
It's like, what do you say?
And I mean, were they sort of too I'm sure some of them must have just been like, how do you explain it to them? Like, are they, what would you say? I mean, did you send an email out? Did you, hop on the phone? How do you, I mean, those are just some really challenging conversations.
Basically, uh, we we failed at that spot. To be honest, uh, one of the things that we did, we had everything in ConnectWise. It was encrypted, so we didn't have access to everybody's phone numbers and all that right away.
Wow.
I think Sunday, by accident, I tripped over a server in our server room and realized that was a server that we had just upgraded in February. That still had ConnectWise on it. So we spun that server up and got into that ConnectWise, and even though it wasn't up to date
Wow. So it
as
literally
far
been like
as
basically been unplugged and not plugged in everything else.
correct,
So, right. Gotcha. So you
so
sort of
we
like, look, go ahead.
started with that, and that's how we got all the backup or the restore keys for clients
Wow.
because they were all stored in ConnectWise.
Wow. So that let you sort of start from there to bring people back.
Correct.
Right. And if you hadn't tripped over that, it would have been, like dead in the water almost until you got the decryptor key.
Yep.
And that came what, a couple weeks later?
Yeah. The tool from Kaseya came. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks after.
Gotcha. And so you were, mostly back up. Most of those businesses were back up and kind of operating.
Correct.
Yeah. And for those who don't, and we don't need to go into details of who you're, all the businesses, but what kind of businesses were you supporting? What was it? What was it like? What was the impact for them um, when they were down? Like, what was that?
Uh, Basically, directive from the FBI was we had to get medical and first responders up first.
Okay.
So I also put into that the veterinary hospitals that we support,
Okay.
the dentist practices we support,
Yeah.
and the medical practices we support were
Yeah.
first. And then we got into the businesses. Most of them, we actually took a machine out to them so they could at least get on the internet,
Yeah.
be able to look at their email and things like that. And then we started taking machines. Some of them they sent over like 5 at a time to get cleaned up, and they took them back and brought 5 more in.
Gotcha.
Some of them just brought everything in, and then our non-for-profits were last.
Yeah. I mean, were you on the phone with the businesses telling them what's going on? Did they
I
sort of,
finally, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. No, no, no.
What ended up happening is on July 6th, I had so many phone calls and text messages and everything else that I got nothing else done but responding to people.
Wow.
So we sent out an email to all the clients that, we know, I know you want status updates. We know we need to get you back up and running. Here's our priorities, basically told to us from the FBI.
Yeah.
And, we're going as fast as we can. But if I have to keep stopping to answer emails and phone calls and text messages, we're going to take this project that could take a month and make it 3 months.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be rude, not trying to be mean, but
That's
we
just,
need to focus
yeah.
on getting things done. And we'll try to update as we can. You'll get getting phone calls on when to get the equipment in here so we can
Yeah.
get started. But I felt shitty doing it.
No.
But if I didn't do it, then I wouldn't get anything done.
Yeah. And what was that? What was the response like? What did they get it? Did they
Oh
sort of,
yeah, I had maybe one client that got upset with me
yeah.
over that. It's like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Um, wow.
And that was one of the ones that I jokingly said, well, if you want them done faster, why don't you bring them in here and you can do them yourself? And he did.
Wow.
It's like, okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, what's it been like since? I mean, obviously you've been through sort of the war with the not just your clients, but the community. What's that been? As you look back on that month, um, what's it been like?
Well, I'll give you here's the timeline of that whole year. In May, I was attacked by two dogs
Wow.
right outside the door here at the office because they saw a dog that we were sitting for and came up and attacked me.
Oh
Then the lab went nuts and went and basically chased them both off.
man. Wow.
Then July, we had the attack. The end of August, I was in an auto accident, which
Oh
took me out for about a month.
my, oh my God.
And then I'm still dealing with ringing in the ears constantly. It's
Wow.
an ongoing issue. And then the end of November, I got my normal November cold. And then the end of December, somebody thought it would be a great idea to bring COVID into the house. And then I was down for another 2.5 weeks.
Oh my God.
And I went and had the infusions done. That was 10 grand.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, it's a circus.
Yeah.
But
You're.
my attorney told me one time I'd write a story about your life, but I have to make it a comedy because nobody would believe this shit.
Oh my God, Jay. Is 2022 starting any better?
I had COVID right away.
um, but how about the relationships? How about the not only let's start with your customers. What's it been like sort of as you now have come back from that, sort of as a group, right?
Most of them have been great. I mean, how can I word this to be politically correct? Well, shit, screw it. Most of them are educated. They'll go out and read things. Some of them asked me to send them links about what happened and
Yeah.
some of the stuff, and I sent them to them, and they went out and looked at it and understood.
Yeah.
You know, the one I left, just all he could say is that you ruined my business, you encrypted my stuff. I'm like, look, it was a Kaseya issue, not ours. Well, you
Yeah.
represent Kaseya. No, I don't. It's like he couldn't get through that I wasn't Kaseya.
Yeah.
I was attacked just like he was.
Yeah. Um, how about and then can you talk a little bit about what you've done with this community, right? Because I know you've talked about this.
I went on last year. I went to I think 7 ASCII events. Did a presentation on what happened and how it affects you, and what to expect. Because it doesn't matter what size you are. If you got a machine on the network on the internet, you're vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah. Um, I um, it's the reason that I mean, every day we, what we do is try and, talk to people to help them understand that this could happen to them and try and bring some of the resources on the insurance side to do it. But I think one of the biggest things, the reason that we started this podcast is to hear stories like this, right? Because people need to hear them, right?
Yeah,
And um, I want to thank you for your courage and for your honesty about this, because I not everyone has the courage that you do to talk about it, right? And the only way that it's going to get better is for people to hear it, right?
yeah. Some people take it personally. Some people will be ashamed of it.
Yeah,
We were following best practices. We had two-factor authentication on everything,
yeah,
which drives me nuts. But
yeah,
I've got a spreadsheet with 400 usernames and passwords that are just mine for
yeah,
different systems that's encrypted, and of course all those got encrypted too.
yeah, yeah. When
Yeah,
it rains, it pours. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that it's just so. Um, yeah, there's this culture of blaming the victim, right, and victims blaming themselves. That until
yep,
we start talking about isn't going to get better. Um, and I feel like people who aren't in this business, and you're in this business way deeper than I am. You know, it's always something, right? And even this, which doesn't seem like, you know, there's anything that you could do. So many incidents, like if you look for, you know, there's always something that could have been better or could have been different, right? And
Yeah.
um, you know, but what people don't realize, and it's a little thing usually, and so it looks like, you know, there's sort of this culture of pointing that out and saying like, how could somebody have missed this, right? Because it's so obvious, right? It's not as fun to talk about is that there's 10,000 of those things, right? And you tell me where you have 10,000 things and you've kept all of them in like perfect alignment, right? It just doesn't, you know, there's um yeah, to expect perfection is to not understand humans, right?
Yeah. I
um
mean, we're not perfect. I tell my employees, if you don't screw up once in a while, you're not trying hard enough.
yeah.
And like I said, they were awesome. They've all been here for 10 plus years. I try not to micromanage.
Yeah.
I just say this needs to get done, and during that time, they did it.
Yeah.
They just did what had to do to get done, and that's what we did.
Yeah. Yeah. And giving them that trust, right? You know, they is the only way that you can operate. What, you know, this has been incredible. I mean, one of the most amazing conversations that I've ever had around these issues. What would you, you know, what would you tell someone, um, you know, as they, having heard this story, what do you wish that they knew? What do you wish that they did? How has it changed, you know, kind of how you operate, knowing that you know, that this kind of event can happen?
We tightened up. I mean, we're still more conscious about security. Uh, Again, we had two factor on. We still have two factor on everything.
Yeah.
Uh, so that part didn't change. We're doing more two factor for our clients now.
Yep.
Something that years ago I suggested,
Yep.
kept suggesting, and now the insurance companies are forcing it.
Yep.
Uh, it's the biggest thing is that if they get, or if or when they get hit, they need to reach out.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I'm on a couple of projects that I can't go into great detail yet, but we're working on a response team that we're going to be willing to get somebody in the air to go there
Yeah.
to help. Uh, yeah, I couldn't make a decision. I was frozen,
Yeah.
and I think having somebody there that's been through this and can empathize with them will help them at least get through the first couple weeks of being
Yeah.
able to get back up on their feet.
Yeah. No, and I think that's maybe been the most powerful part of this conversation is just the emotional challenges, right? And to, you know, to be able to be ready for that, and even to, you know, for people to hear your story, I think is going to be really powerful, because it maybe not to feel that, you know, when you're going through something, to not know that you're not alone in it, right? That you're not the only one who's gone
Oh
through it.
yeah,
And
I mean,
this,
you feel very alone. You
yeah.
feel isolated.
And to know that there's another side, there's you're going to get through it, right? And there is another side, right? And
Yeah,
God,
but
it's going to be a horrible.
you're never going to be prepared for the emotional
Yeah.
toll that's going to hit you.
Yeah.
If somebody would have told me it would have affected me, where you go from blaming yourself to thinking you're blaming others to taking full responsibility and just being totally numb and not being able to do anything.
Yeah. Wow. Um, uh, I I almost don't have the words, Jay. I just
It
want,
is what it is. It's
um, I, I want to,
if you know who they are, if you let me know,
Yeah.
I'd like to do a parachute drop in at night, visit them.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I think, um, I'm gonna keep this episode and maybe, uh, I'd love to have you, you know, wherever you want to go, Jay, whenever you want to talk about this, tell this story, um, you tell me, and you know, we got tickets and hotel rooms, and maybe a bottle of Grey Goose or several of
Woohoo!
them, that'll be waiting for you when you're there. Um, Thank you. Yeah, this has been incredible.
I have no problems, going somewhere and talking about it. It's something that people need to hear. They need to try to understand,
Yeah, and
and even the clients, they just think that we sit here in the ivory tower and push a few buttons and everything works.
yeah. Um, Obviously, we're gonna, we record this. We'll put together an episode, and we usually build an article and like maybe little video clips out of it, right? But we're doing, every month we're going to do a training, for our partners, as MSPs, and then their customers as well. And obviously we'll send them the recording, but I think to have you tell your story with them on the line, I know that they'll feel like I do, which is, they jaws on the floor, and just a conversation that you're never going to forget. You have any closing words, Jay?
Basically, just to realize that you're not an island. You're not. You will get hit. It's just a matter of time before they find the vulnerability in your software. I had people ask me why I'm still with Kaseya. I was like, well, right now they're the safest one out there for a while,
Yeah,
because they had people pouring through the code looking for other issues,
yeah,
and so you know, uh, there's on an attack like this. There's nothing we could do to stop it.
yeah,
And
no,
I had to learn that over a couple of weeks and have MJ pound that into my head.
yeah. And who's MJ? Is that your old business partner?
MJ he now is part of the ISAL at CompTIA,
Okay.
and I'm working with him on a couple projects, trying to get the word out and trying to help others.
Yeah. Um, and tell us how we can help support that, right? Even if that's just, you're like, hey, you know, we need some money to do this. We need, somebody to market it. I mean, we got, at every level, however my team can be supportive financially, um, you know, uh,
Have you
just
joined
hands.
CompTIA yet?
Yeah, yeah, we're members. We're going.
Okay.
Are you
Are you
going
going to be
into
up in Chicago in 2 weeks?
Rhonda was bugging me, to come in. It sounds like, I got to at least for a night.
Yeah,
Just
I'll
to
be there. I get there Monday morning,
okay.
because I'm staying outside of Chicago for Monday night or Sunday
Okay.
night, because $300 for a hotel room compared to the $100 I'm spending for a suite in Maryville.
Well, Jay, if you want to stay at the hotel, just tell us.
Oh, I'm at the
It's
hotel
on.
already. I've got the
Yeah.
room. It's just I didn't want to spend the $300 for the parking and the hotel room for Sunday night.
Okay. Well, if you change your mind, let us know. Right. It's on me.